Hey guys, it's Believe Gaga, and I thought since I've already made 2 videos on Rami Malek, I said, why not let's do a little recap on the Who is Mr. Robot series, and today is going to be episode 1. Tomorrow, the 15th, I believe, is episode 4. It goes 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and, there's the 4th episode, basically. But the premiere on June 24th, that's what it was. It was an hour and a half, and it was episode Hello Friend. And I wrote, a note on the episode and what I'm going to talk about. So, first of all, Rami Malek is the main character, and he's very adorable. He's cute. I was on a Periscope with him. I'll probably put a card in there at the beginning right now, so you can click on it if you want to see the little Q&A that he did, and my video on me crushing on Rami Malek because he's really attractive. And then there's Christian Slater, and then there's some other people, blah blah blah, people whose names I don't really know because I only care about Rami, really. But like I said, episode 1, Hello Friend, though, the premiere is an hour and a half. So, basically, it starts off with Rami's character, Elliot, and he's kind of, talking to himself, but he's not, because it's, talking to the audience, which is the self-explanatory title, Hello Friend. We are the friend in his head that he's talking to, his little imaginary person. So, he's just talking and blah, 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 I guess, and then it goes to the coffee shop. And that's the first scene, and he is talking to some Indian guy, and the Indian guy thinks he's going to be blackmailed and he's going to want money, and then he's like, no, I'm not going to give you money because then you're just going to want more money no matter what I do. And he kind of plays along with it because you'll find later out when I talk that he can, read people and stuff. So he is talking about, the Wi-Fi and all these things and how it's not easy to be found, or, some kind of code or script or whatever. Computer stuff that I don't know, okay? Then he says that, oh, I'm gonna call the police because you hacked and stuff, and you also broke a crime, and he's like, yeah, he's like, do you want them to find all that child pornography on your stuff? So he found out that the guy who owned the coffee shop, that Indian guy and stuff, he also had, a lot of child pornography, so that's what he had against him, in the sense of he's just protecting who he wants. And Rami Malek did say in his interviews that this person, Elliot, works for a company, and then at night he's a vigilante hacker, and he does justice, so I guess a computer Batman, if you want to say, I guess. And then he thinks, he's like, okay, I can give you all the money you want. Then you see police pulling up, and he's like, no, it was just an anonymous tip, in the sense of he basically set up that Indian guy, and that was the first thing that you see where I guess his vigilante hacker skills are put perverts away, pedophiles away. And the guy is arrested, I guess, and then it's Mr. Robot. And then he's talking again, or maybe I jumped to it, and this is the part where he's like, hello, friend. And he's being followed by men in black and stuff, and they're always watching him, they're always following him, and he, we see Mr. Robot on the train for the first time. He's like, oh, hey, kid, and stuff, and he's just sitting there okay, with this little hoodie and everything like that, and Rami Malek is really cute with that little hoodie, so. Then we get to where he goes to work for the first time. That's where we meet Allstate. I always want to say Allstate and be like, oh, this is Allstate, the guy that Allstate has. You meet Mr. Guinean, who is, the boss, I guess, and Angela, and you only meet them because there was a hack the night before or something like that. So that's where you first meet the boss, and that's where you first meet Angela. And then, you're just, I guess, being introduced to, extra characters, they say, who contribute to the storyline. And then it flashes to Angela's party, which he didn't go to, and he sees her kissing the boyfriend at the bar and stuff, and he was gonna go in, but then he doesn't. And then you meet the psychologist, and he hacked her, and she found out about her life and stuff, and her divorce and everything like that. And then I think he kind of mentions oh, I see, you want to help people, so you don't want them to be lonely, and at least you try. And then she's like, oh, how do you know? And then he's like, oh, hacking her email, he read it, so that's how he knows. And he talks about Apple and Steve Jobs, we thought Steve Jobs was, I think a hero or something like that, but we all know he was, making money off the back of Asian children, so child labor. But, I mean, for someone like me who loves jewelry, I mean, little fingers, little stones, it makes sense. JK, you guys. And then he talks to Angela's boyfriend, and then one part here that you notice, 2/3 of the way into the episode happens again, is he's like, oh, hey, and stuff like that, because when he first met the boyfriend, he's like, why doesn't he like me, and stuff like that. Angela's boyfriend is like, why doesn't he like me, Elliot and stuff, and it's just oh, whatever, and then he, pats him on the shoulder, and then Elliot's like, because he has like a social anxiety, like a social disorder or something. So he doesn't like being touched, and it's very hard for him to, I guess, communicate with people and like people interactions and like social anxiety basically, but like I guess really bad. And then he's just like, and then he's like, oh, I forgot, like, you don't like to be touched and stuff. And then you see Colby walking in, he's like talking about like how he's like a moron and stuff, not really like this or that, and he owns a BlackBerry and stuff. And then we meet Tyrell, who comes into a later episode in which my crushing on Rami Malek video, and he said, like, I said, this is where it gets weird and where you don't really see how this kind of fits in. But I mean, a lot of this, as you piece it together and as I'm watching the episodes again, it's really foreshadowing other parts in other episodes. You just gotta pay attention. So Tyrell is like, he kind of looks like Scott Disick without the beard. That's the best way I can put him. And he's talking to him, he's like an executive, and then Elliot's like, oh, if he's an executive, why does he still do this? And then he's like, I know what you're thinking. Like, he basically says what Elliot's thinking. So he's like, okay, this is weird. And then he's like, oh, I should get back. And then he has a breakdown. I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, because I know there is another scene and stuff. But he has a breakdown, and he's talking about when sad people, like, when they're like this, do they have family and friends to rely on? And then it kind of shows, like, a kind of a flashback of his childhood, I believe, because this happens in other episodes as well. But he's, like, crying in the corner next to a thing, next to a dresser, I guess, or, like, drawer, I don't know. And it kind of shows, like, I guess he had, like, an abusive childhood because of the mom or stuff, and maybe that led to, like, the social anxiety and the social disorders and the psychological problems that he has. And it's kind of like he's a kid, and I guess he's eating breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever, one of the three. At least he got his meal of the day. And his mom's, like, holding Elliot's hands, and he's, like, crying, and it's, like, looking, and I guess he's, like, flashing back to it in his mind. And then he says how he takes morphine, and he doesn't go over 30 grams, I believe, or 30 milligrams. But I know it's a 30, and he's like, if not, like, you get resistance to it or whatever, and he checks it for purity and whatever, like, he's just talking and stuff. And, like, I guess that numbs the pain, kind of like alcohol does to people. I mean, like Lindsay Lohan, you know, like, she's been in and out of Betty Ford more than Gerald Ford has, so, you know, kind of the same gist. And Shayla comes in, and Shayla is, like, his drug dealer who gives him the morphine and stuff, and then she brings him some other drug, I forgot what it is, and then he's like, oh, how much is it? And she's like, on the house, and he's like, no, so he pays for it, and she's like, okay, and then they hook up, because she's like, oh, what about this Molly and stuff, and then when it comes back, he's like, oh, like, don't make decisions when you're, like, you know, like, on Molly or whatever, like, high, or, I guess, drugged, I guess, like they say. And then you see the psychologist on her date, like, he's stalking because he wants to find out who the real boyfriend is, because when he tried to look him up on Facebook or something, he was like, this isn't, like, the real him. So later on we find out, like, what that little drama was. But he has to borrow his phone, and he's like, oh, I need to call my mom. And he's like, okay. But when he does that, you see Flipper, and Flipper is the dog that comes in later, and as you see in other episodes, and he sees him, like, pull him by the leash and stuff, because I guess the dog won't use the bathroom. And then he's like, whoa, 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 like, it really affects him, I guess, because as he tries to protect the people he likes by being a vigilante hacker at night and protecting them, he kind of goes for the animal. And I guess, like, probably in the real life, as people with social disorders and social anxieties and more psychological problems, an animal really does things. Like, dogs kind of help with depression, dogs kind of help with it just helps to have someone there. I mean, look at Joan Rivers when she was about to kill herself, but then, I don't know if you guys know the story, but her dog came up to her, and she's like, oh, well, someone has to watch after you, your little dumbass, like they say. And Joan Rivers didn't kill herself. And I guess this is kind of like in that depression, social anxiety thing, where a dog just really helps a person, I guess, deal with it and stuff. And he's like, let me borrow your phone. And then he's like calling his mom, but he's calling his own phone. So Elliot's calling his own phone. And this is how, like, he keeps tabs on people. And he, like, deletes his mom's number from his friend. He's like, oh, thank you and stuff. And then he has his number. Then he, like, I guess finds him out, like they say, as he does his little hackings at night. There's another hack at Allsafe and stuff. And it's a very bad, like, virus and Trojans and worms and everything like that they're saying. The Asian guy, I forgot his name, is trying to... Lloyd's trying to, like, stop the hack and stuff, and he's been trying for an hour, and then he walks in, and Angela's like, oh my god, it's like $13 million in revenue lost, and blah, blah, blah. And then Elliot stops the hack when they fly to, like, the servers and stuff. He's like, okay, we gotta reroute this, and you gotta shut this down, and blah, 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 stuff like that. But then he's just rerouting stuff, and he fixes it, like they say. And then when he fixes it, Gideon, the boss, kind of, like, you know, like, pat yourself on the back, sort of, like, on his shoulder. And then he's like, oh, like, I guess, like, everybody knows he doesn't like to be touched, and he's, like, a weird person, because, like, he has, that social anxiety stuff and whatever. So, he's just like, okay, but then as he starts, I guess, reading, like, binary code, I want to say that's what it's called, I don't know, like, I have friends who did computer science, so I'm just going off of what I hear. I mean, I don't know computers and whatever, but, it says leave this here, and it's from F Society, and then F Society, we find out later on, is, like, basically, I guess, the plot of the whole storyline or whatever, or maybe part of it that's going to lead up and foreshadow to more things. And it's, like, it's funny because I feel like everything here is, like, a play on words, like, who is Mr. Robot, and, like, F Society, and E Corp is Evil Corp, which is, like, the Apple in this situation. So, Elliot's just a tech guy, like he told Tyrell when he first met him, and he just, like, works there and stuff, but he doesn't like working there, and I guess the vigilante hacker stuff at night is, like, how he makes up for it and stuff, so that's what it is. And then he reroutes the leave me here message that F Society left and stuff. He's like, oh, like, they left this here, I can't delete it, I want to delete it, but why can't I delete it? And then, like, that's where it kind of, like, starts playing within his mind, where it's not, like, him just, like, oh, this and that, and like, people and this, and, like, social anxiety. Like, that's when it's like, why was this left here? Like, who's looking for me? And, like, you know, he starts to question, like, was this intentional? Was it meant for him to do it? Did they know who he is? Like, is this, like, I guess, a game that they're playing on him, I guess, you know? And then he flies back on the plane, Guinean, and the Guinean's like, oh, did you know I was gay and stuff? He's like, oh, no, and stuff. And then he's like, oh, I feel like I can talk to you, Elliot, stuff. And it's just like, okay. So that was just like, okay, like, whatever. And then Mr. Robot's on the train again, and then he, like, sees him. He's like, why are you following me? And stuff like that. And then he talks about his dad, which this was a big foreshadow part, because the next episode, 1.1, I believe it's called Ones and Zeros, and that has to deal with dads, and I'll talk about that when I do the little recap of episode 1.1, Ones and Zeros. But for now, he just talks about his dad, Mr. Robot, to Elliot, and then he's like, oh yeah, my dad told me about something about stealing and stuff, and then he's like, oh, you never get caught, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they just have, like, I guess, a kind of heart-to-heart, but not really, because Elliot's still, like, who is, like, like, self-explanatory title track, like they say, who is Mr. Robot? Like, he's trying to figure out who he is. And then they're at Coney Island. He takes them to the F Society place, and he meets, like, the people working, which is, like, some Indian girl, I guess. I don't know, she's wearing a hijab, so I'm just gonna stereotype her. And some old black guy, let's just call him Bill Cosby, and some girl who kind of looks like Shayla. I forget her name, but she kind of reminds me of, like, Madonna's, like, in, I don't know, Lucky Star. So we'll just say he meets Madonna, Bill Cosby, and Malala. So Malala, Bill Cosby, and Madonna. He meets them with Mr. Robot. He's like, oh, how do you talk and stuff? And he, like, kind of mentions how this other group tried to do it, but, like, they found them all by email and brought the whole ship down, like they say. It's like, oh, like, we just come here, we do what we have to do, and then we leave, and that's, like, how they hide, like, by interacting with people, by having a life, that's how they hide, like, the hackery part. Which kind of is weird, because, like, since Elliot's more, like, a behind-the-scenes kind of person, like, he has that social anxiety and stuff, and he doesn't talk to people, I guess that's one of the parts where it kind of, like, freaks him out a bit, like, kind of, like, pushes him a little out of his comfort zone, but not really noticeable, but he's just like, oh, they talk to people, you know, like, that's something that he's not used to, that's something he doesn't like to do and doesn't want to do, because he did mention at the beginning when he meets a psychologist, it was only because, like, he was forced to, you know, like, he didn't choose to meet a psychologist, because I guess that social anxiety and stuff, like, why would you want to choose someone, you know, so it's like he was brought to them for help and stuff. And they talk about a project and stuff, and I think later on in this episode, Mr. Robot was like, I hope you didn't delete it, and blah, 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 and everything like that, and everything. And then it's just, they have to talk about the project and stuff, and then he just is walking back to his apartment, and then he meets Angela, and she's like, oh, you live, like, in a bad neighborhood, blah, 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 let's watch a movie night, okay, like, we're gonna watch a movie, and then he walks in, and then Shayla's still there, the hoe who he hooked up with, like, couldn't it be me? And she's just there passed out, and then she's like, oh, I gotta move my car, it's Wednesday, and stuff, and he's like, leave, Shayla, leave now, and stuff, and Angela had already left, so, like, their movie night's another night, so we'll see if that happens in the episodes. And then he's on the Ferris wheel, Mr. Robot, and I guess you're talking more about the, like, I guess, Mr. Robot's plan more than Elliot's plan, are kind of like low-key hinting that he kind of knows about Elliot's plan, but not really. And this was kind of foreshadowed because when we met Angela and stuff, I believe she mentioned how she was kind of back on student loans and she owed, like, I think over 100,000 in student loans, almost 200,000. And it's just like, oh, I can barely make it. I was late on the past two and stuff. And then here, Mr. Robot's talking about the largest wealth redistribution in history and stuff like that, and like the 1% and everything. And then he goes back on his computer and he looks at how much Angela owes and stuff. And he's just like, the minimum payment is 500. And like, how is she gonna make that? Because she's been asking Mr. Guinean for a raise and stuff, and she hasn't gotten it. So it's just like foreshadowing other parts if you can kind of watch the episodes and go along with it. And to any other fans out there who want to leave commentaries in the comments and stuff and help me out here, if I'm doing good, if I'm not doing that good, sorry if I'm talking too fast and you can't understand, if I'm getting things wrong, out of place, I don't know, but let me just get up because my legs are falling asleep. And it's the wealth distribution and stuff like that, and then the Ferris wheel ride ends, sad, but that's all at Coney Island. And he found out that Coney Island, like, the person was shot or murdered or something. He's like, oh, Mr. Robot's about to have F society here and stuff. And it's just, it's weird. Like, it's a 180, 360 thing. Like, you think it's going one way, but then it kind of comes back one way, and it's like they all just end up in the same thing. And Elliot's the person who just, I guess, is the pawn in a game. That's how I'm seeing it in the first episode. I mean, I've already watched the other episodes, but when you watch the first episode, like, kind of think about it like you think maybe Elliot's being played, you know? And he kind of sets up the psychologist's boyfriend when he sees him again. He's like, oh, I know, like, you had escorts and stuff. And he's like, oh, this escort was 15. Like, you're gonna get in trouble with the police and stuff. And then he's like, oh, no. He's like, you gotta break up with my psychologist and stuff. And he's like, okay. He's like, but he's like, you have to tell her the truth that you're doing this and stuff. And the psychologist's like, oh, like, she thought we were in love and everything. And he, like, since I guess the last time that he saw Flipper get pulled by, like, the leash and stuff into the air because he didn't use the bathroom, he's like, oh, and I want one more thing. And he's like, what? And he's like, the dog, basically. And he comes back home and he has the dog. And then the truth came out and all that. And when he goes to meet the psychologist again, but before that, it kind of goes back to Angela's boyfriend, and Angela's boyfriend is like me, and he's just like, I guess, analyzing him, and you get more backstory on him, which does foreshadow the next episode, like they say. And he's like, oh, like, I've seen Angela's boyfriend this, but I don't want to hurt her because he has, like, some emails to somehow, like they say on his emails. And he's like, should I tell Angela or not? But it's like, how do you explain that, you know? Because obviously he's a hacker, but how can you explain hacking? And when he meets his psychologist again, he figures out she's sad and stuff, and then I guess, again, it's like, oh, like, you have, like, a heart-to-heart with her and stuff, and blah, 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 and she's the one who's, like, spacing out, and then he is just, like, I guess, analyzing her. He's like, well, I must have, like, really ruined her again, but, like, he did that only to, like, make her more aware, I guess, of the guy she's dating, so it's kind of like he is helping her out, but low-key, it kind of, like, ruins something, I guess, but, I mean, there can always be a happy ending, I guess, in this situation, so then he has a talk with Angela, and it's like, when they had a meeting with the FBI on, like, who hacked, and Colby was like, I just want to know who did it, and blah, 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 and, like, kicked out Angela out of the meeting and stuff, and he gives the FBI a file. I was like, oh, well, when you, like, decrypt it and stuff, you'll find out who did it, and Angela's like, even if I'm losing, like, don't stand up for me, like, whatever, blah, 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 but, I mean, he's not going to be that kind of person to, like, I guess, let his friend go down. My legs are asleep. I need to move. And, yeah, he has that little talk with Angela, and then they're, like, it looks like they're gonna kiss and stuff, and then, like, you think everybody's staring at them, they're just like, and then on the TV behind them, Guinean, like, raises the volume, and he's like, oh no, like, you can see, like, their expressions on their face, they're like, what? Because you see Colby, I believe it was reported on the news, like they say in the show, like, he's the one who started the hack, he's the one who did this hack, and blah, 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 and it was just, like, I guess, a cover-up. So it's kind of like Colby did that to himself, I guess, to kind of seem like they're being hacked and stuff, but then at the same time, it's like, who is Colby and who is Mr. Robot? Because, like I said, when he was reading, like, the binary codes, I don't know if that's the right word, it said, leave me here, F Society, and he's like, who's F Society? And he rerouted that. But then Colby was arrested, so it's like, who's Colby, who's Mr. Robot, what is Elliot caught in the middle of, like they say. And it's just like, okay, and that went back to the meeting when Colby was like, I want to know who did it, and then you see Colby being arrested, and like I say, it's like, what is Elliot caught in and stuff. So it's very, like, interesting the way everything goes, like I said, 180, 360, because it's like, oh, like, it's this, but then if you think about it, like I just said, it's like, so who is Colby and who is Mr. Robot? And like I keep saying, what is Elliot caught in? So is it easy to play him like a little pawn because he has this social anxiety and he does drugs and stuff? I mean, they have to know where he lives if they follow him all the time, the Men in Black and stuff. And when he was like, oh no, they don't follow me anymore, when he talked to the psychologist and stuff, but it's like low-key, like they are. And this is where it happens, because he's seen the arrest in Times Square, I think that's the place in New York, and then he's just like, yes, when he sees the arrest, and he gets transported by, I guess, the Men in Black, like they say, and they're like, oh, come with me, and then he's like, oh, like, who are these people? Like, I don't know who you are, I just want to have fun, and just put my hands up in the air, like, I just don't care. But then he looks over and the police kind of just turn around, so it's like low-key, I guess, what is it, like a corrupt society looking at the 1%, like the people control everything, because that's what he said in the beginning, like, what I'm gonna tell you is top secret and blah blah blah, and like there's a 1% who control like everything and blah blah blah, so it's like Illuminati, you know. I don't know, to me it's like Illuminati. And he's like transported to like the place of where the Men in Black come from, and we find out it's Tyrell, and Tyrell is like Scott Disick without a beard. And that, like I said, was in another episode, which is a little kind of odd, because I was like, what does this have to do with stuff? But then, I guess as the other episodes come out, we'll find out why Tyrell does what he does, and, like, who is Mr. Robot, like they say, and Elliot and everything. Like I said, these videos are on delay, but anyone who's seen these episodes, leave comments and stuff, and share this video and stuff, because I really want to go into it. And I don't have a Tumblr, so I don't really know, like, the Tumblr theories and stuff, but I know we call Rami Malek cinnamon roll because he's so tasty and delicious. And it kind of just ends with Tyrell like, oh, hello, Elliot, basically, like they say. And Elliot like has like a moment like off camera, and he's just like, oh, like freaking out, I guess, like on the inside, like. And then he kind of like looks to the camera like, girl, and like tells us, the audience, the friend in his head, like, are you seeing this too? And it ends there, and it is such like a cliffhanger, because I remember when I was first watching it when it premiered, but I had to rewatch it again just to kind of do this video, just to freshen up a bit. It's kind of like, that's where I guess they say it's dropped, and it's like really well filmed, it's really well done and everything. It's a really good movie. I mean, well, that's why I say movie, because it does seem like a movie, and I know it's directed by the person who did the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and everything. So it's very, like, intense, it's very dramatic, it's very, like, I would probably say a psychological thriller. I guess that's the best movie way I can put it, but it is very dramatic and stuff, it's very intense, and you find that out in the other episodes and everything like that, especially, like, it's just, it's very crazy, and it's very interesting. I really love the show. And of course, I love Rami Malek, so I don't know, that was my recap on episode 1 of Who is Mr. Robot, and like I said, any fans out there who want to leave in the comments or anything, if there's anything I left out, any pieces I missed, any pieces that I can't put together in episode 1, this is all about episode 1, so let's not rush ourselves as I move along with the other episodes, and hopefully I can see, like, the pieces linked together, and maybe I can get caught up on episode 4, well, I won't, because it airs tomorrow, but you know what I mean, and I'll probably film about the episode 2, either later on this afternoon, or I don't know, but yeah, that was episode 1, like I said. It ended with just, are you seeing this too, and blah blah blah, Tyrell, so it like leaves off on Tyrell basically and Elliot, and that's where I guess the Who is Mr. Robot story starts, like they say, and we're gonna find out more in episode 2 and 3, like they say. Well, episode 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, because this is 1.0, and that kind of threw me off, because I saw 1.0, 1.1, and I was like, oh, it's a 2-part premiere, and then I saw 1.1, 1.2, and I was just like, whoa. But like I said, any fans out there who want to leave comments on anything I missed in episode 1.0, hello friend, please leave that in the comments, because this is a really, like, interesting show. Like, I'm hooked on it, and I don't really watch TV besides like Rich Kids of Beverly Hills or Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but this is like really, ooh, girl. And like I said, Rami Malek is really attractive. If you want to see the Q&A that I recorded that he did on Periscope, you can see his reaction to my Yas Papi tweet when he tried to talk Spanish and the smile was so adorable there. You could tell he was like, he really liked it, you could tell. And my crushing on Rami Malek video is just amazing. So, like I said, leave comments and stuff. Link me to, I guess, theories about the show and everything like that. And let's just share our love for Who is Mr. Robot. So, until next time, I want to say hi to Rami Malek. And like, comment, rate, share, subscribe. Follow me on social media and tell me when you do. And I'll be back with a review or another episode recap or whatever you guys want to see. So, until next time, you guys, be safe and God bless. Change your passwords and don't get hacked by F Society or anyone like that. And like I said, I want to say hi to Rami Malek again because Rami Malek is attractive. So, I don't know, Rami Malek, if you ever see these videos, I'll be waiting. I'll be sitting right here real patient all day, all night. I'll be waiting, stand back and stop because I love it. Oh, Rami Malek, he's just so adorable and so cute. I don't know. But yeah. Hi to Rami Malek. So until next time, you guys. Bye, stay safe, God bless, and everything else. So